Welcome to Live, Love, Play. My name is Ross, and this is For the Love of, a periodic interview blog about everything we geek out about. Joining me today is the author of the Gamadin novel series, Mr. Tom Kirkbride. Thank you for joining me today, Tom.
Hello, Ross. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
My pleasure, Tom. Let's get right into it then. Why don't you tell our listeners a bit about yourself, your background, and your experience up till now?
Okay, my background is I was born in Southern California, and I went to school there, and in the Oceanside, Long Beach, San Diego area, where I went to college at San Diego State. I didn't take up writing until much later, though, because I was kind of gaining my experience, you might say, and started writing when I was a lifeguard in La Jolla. The reason I got started there is because a couple of the lifeguards were also writing novels, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea. I'll give it a try, because I've always been in the artsy kind of mood, you might say, or mode, and I've done sculptures, bronzes, and I used to do some oil paintings and things like that. And the reason I haven't done them lately is because I've been writing. When I started my writing, it was about 15, 20 years ago, I guess. And I took my experiences from Southern California, being a surfer, and the love of science fiction, put my work together and started the series. It took me 5 years, for example, to finish book one. Book two took a year, and I had over 900 pages of manuscript from book one. But the interesting thing about it is I'm going, well, how am I going to publish this? With 900 pages, guess who came along? J.K. Rowling. And she gave me a great idea, in which is to start a series. And I had enough material, and that's how I started my series, is seeing how she became, because of how many books she had, about 5 or 6, I think, maybe 7, I can't remember. And it's taken off a lot more than better than what I thought, because I'm a self-published author. But having said that, a lot of self-published authors only get maybe 100 or 200 sales. Book one alone has sold over 5,000 copies. So, yeah, I'm very proud of that. And I'm also very proud of the fact that the AR program, which is the Accelerated Reader Program throughout the United States, came to me and said, we would like to put your books, your whole series, in our reading program. And that just doesn't happen. And the reason for that, from what I understood from them, is there was so many librarians and teachers who came to them and said, we'd like to have it on our list, because our boys aren't reading, but when they read your books, they read. And that's why we have our slogan, finally, the boys have a series, the girls love to read. So I was very proud about that. And not only that, this is the kicker. Not only that, the students who you can't bribe, you can't pay off, or any of that kind of thing like they do on Amazon reviews and things, they evaluate the books and they give it a 1 through 4 stars. And my books, all of them, have come up 3 to 4 stars, and they're ranking better than the Potter series and a couple other series. Again, that's, coming from the students and everything, like I said, you can't bribe them. What they do is they get points for reading them. And then they get, I guess, what you're calling your parties and things. They get awards. And I don't know what kind of awards they are, but some teachers like it and some don't. And because, they say, well, our students should be reading regardless of the award, right? But
A little incentive is always nice. I remember the accelerated reading program, Book It, and other programs like it were a huge part of my childhood, and my parents always went out of their way to make sure I and my sisters were involved with them. Would you mind giving our listeners a little background on your experience with the accelerated reader program and programs like it?
Oh, that's mainly what it is the program. Like I said, I don't handle it. They came through me to me and said, send us books. They were very very nice, and then they come up with a quiz that the students take, and when they finish that quiz, when they pass that quiz, then they get their points. The books are rated fifth grade on up, with some are 19 and some I think are 25. They range from 19 to 25 points. It's funny because when I show them the students, the points and everything, their eyes just go around. They go, "Oh man, we can make a lot of points on this." Book 3 alone is over 700 pages. And another one, the first book is like 425 pages, and 600 pages for book 2. Book 3 was 7, and then we went back to 500 pages for book 4, and I think the last book is 650 pages or something like that.
That's a lot of reading.
That's a lot of reading, but they don't complain about it. They read it, and my biggest complaint is, when's the next book come out?
Ah, the eternal cry of the serial reader.
Yeah, and it's just not for for kids, young adults. I just got an email this morning, as a matter of fact, from an astronaut.
Oh, wow.
And his name is Ken Johnston. He wrote to me because I met him at the Roswell UFO Festival in New Mexico this last July. As a matter of fact, Roswell Museum there, where I go, invites me back every year to speak. They have a bunch of guest speakers and things like that. This last July, I met him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to have your book. I'll take it home and let you know." So we did. So I haven't heard from him since, but I just did this morning. As a matter of fact, came in at 9:11 in the morning, and he says, "Tom, I just finished your book 1. Now I'm hooked." He wants all 4 remaining ones signed by me.
Very nice. That's excellent.
So when we tell people, they go, "Well, what age group is it?" We say it's from 11 to 111.
Taking a quick step back, you mentioned earlier a lot of sci-fi inspiration in the past, as well as your experience as a lifeguard. What other inspirations can you cite leading up to the first book?
A Love Gone Bad.
Ooh, that's always a good one.
Yeah. How's that one? There's a lot of pain that goes with that. In order to get over my pain, I started writing. And I think it was kind of an effort to change history. But that's kind of the way it started. And I had moved up to Park City, Utah to build a triplex up there. In my other life, I was a contractor. I had a maintenance business. We were up in Park City, Utah, and she didn't like being away from San Diego. And so I was there going it alone, you might say, with the building and everything. And so I started writing because Utah nights are incredibly filled with stars and everything. And I love science fiction. Some of my favorite authors were Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, Michael Crichton, and of course L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of Oz. But I had a lot of it just wasn't that easy. I had to write a lot of pages. I was a member of a writers group 6-7 years. It just didn't come naturally. And I think that's the way writing's pretty tough. You have to sit down, and it's every day. It's not just when you feel like it or when you get the inspiration. I don't need to be looking out on a bunch of nice sunset skies or anything like that. It doesn't matter. You just write. That's kind of one of those things I learned. the guy that Snoopy.
Charles Schultz.
Somebody asked him one time, "Do you ever get writer's block?" And he said, "That's for amateurs." So that's where I come from. I write every day until the job's done, and I write 3 drafts, and then that's done before I send it to the editors and let them take care of the rest.
Pick it apart piece by piece?
Well, not so much that. I know how to write from doing all this. I know what makes a good story, because if I didn't, I don't think I would have as many people enjoying the series as I do. If you go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, for example, it's all 4 or 5 stars, except for maybe 1 or 2 out of all of them. And of course, like I said before, the AR kids just, are eating it up. It takes a lot of sweat and work to get to where it is, I also go to schools and talk about writing to them. There's a couple of years I probably must have talked to 7,000 or 8,000 students in 1 year, and I do it all free, but it pays off. 2 or 3 years later, I'll be at a convention or something, and a student will come up and, "Oh, you came to my school. I love your books," and stuff like that. So that's another good positive thing that I've really enjoyed.
The release of Word of Honor, your first book, were there any really standout reactions to its release? Was it a takeoff hit, or did it start off really slow?
Well, when you're a self-published author, because you publish it, doesn't get you the notoriety that you think it might. Okay, because you're not from one of the big publishing houses, and like Simon and Schuster or Thor, so you have to do all the marketing. So it takes a while. When I'm talking to other writers who don't understand this, or they haven't published anything, I said, everything is marketing, and you probably know this too, Ross. I tell them, you look at it like a 1-foot ruler, and the first inch is the writing, the second inch is the publishing, but that's 10 inches is marketing. And if you don't do marketing, you're nowhere, because nobody cares. You can have the greatest book since the Bible. If nobody knows about it, or if you don't tell them about it, they don't care.
Kind of hard to find it if they don't know it's there.
Right. And it's just going to sit on the shelves at Barnes & Noble, right? So, they have to know, and you have to get them. But, my budget for marketing isn't nearly as much as just 1/10,000th of what some of these other books from the big companies come from.
So what kind of marketing do you do as a self-published author?
As a self-published author, I have my website, which is Gamadin.com, Gamadin as in Nancy.com. And I have my Facebook, which is the Gamadin book series. And I go to these conventions. I did the Phoenix Comic-Con, Star Trek, Denver Comic-Con, Roswell. As a matter of fact, I've done so many of these, I haven't been able to write in the last couple of months. So I've decided that this next year, I'm taking the whole year off, because I want to write. I want to finish book 6, and I've got another one in the works that will be a prequel to all this, about my heroes before they found the saucer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's going to be cool, just like the other ones. just like the other.
So when you started writing, when you started developing your first book, did you start with a small story? Did you start with a story Bible with a lot of ideas fleshed out?
That, it comes later. I didn't. It just happened that way. And it just, they needed, my characters needed to grow. And so book 1, because when they start, they find this humongous spaceship, the saucer, in the deserts of Utah. That's 6 aircraft carriers could fit inside of it. That's how big it is. It's huge. And so it's like giving a 5-year-old a Ferrari. They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to drive it. They don't know anything.
Yeah, knocked down a mountain accidentally.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't accidentally, but you might as well say it was. The ship takes them to Mars, where they learn how to use it, and that's book 2. And that's where they become Gamadin, and they don't do it on their own either. There's this general that happens to go along with them, General Gunn, who no one will ever forget. He's mean as they come, tough, teaches them how to survive on a planet where there's no life. Well, who says there's no life, no surfing on Mars, though, right?
Don't give it all away.
So, and that's another thing about like book 2. Book 2, every place that is mentioned on and where they go on Mars in book 2 is an actual place. They even come across Opportunity, one of the Mars landers.
Oh, very cool.
Fun with that. Yeah, it's real cool. And they land, or the ship takes them to the edge of this mountain on Mars, which is the largest mountain in the solar system.
Ah, Olympus Mons.
Yeah, have you ever heard of it?
I have. When I was a kid, my parents got me a copy of The Planets, narrated by Sir Patrick Stewart, and I used to watch that all the time.
Oh, cool. Right.
Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, why don't you give us a synopsis of book 1?
Oh, okay. Book 1 is they're body surfing. They did school. My heroes, Harlow Pilot and Matt Riverstone, are out body surfing after they ditched school. And it's a humongous day of waves in Newport Beach at the Wedge, and they're out body surfing, and along comes this yacht that's owned by this movie star, Simon Bolt. Okay. And on board is Leucadia Mars, who is a half alien socialite whose mom came to this planet looking for the ship that the boys will ultimately find. And when the boat leaves the peaceful waters of Newport Harbor, it comes into and is hit by a rogue wave that overturns the boat. And my guys, of course, begin rescuing the party goers on that boat. And of course, one of the rescue ladies is Leucadia Mars, which Harlow rescues. And the mother sees this because they have a home that's right off the shore there at Newport Beach. The mom sees the courage that these guys have and says, I want them to become part of what I have planned. So no good deed goes unpunished, right?
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, that's right. So they, at the mother's house, later on, after got to know everybody and things, and they're attacked by Dacadudes. Dacadudes it's just a name that my guys give to anything that's alien and big and ugly aliens. They call Dacadudes, but they shorten it to Dax. So the Dax hit the home of Leucadia's parents, and Leucadia is wounded almost practically mortally, and the only way that can be saved, her life can be saved, is if Harlow and the guys go to Utah, and they don't know it, and find this thing or person called Milawanda, and Milawanda turns out to be the ship. And so that's how they get to Utah, and they have to, and the ship is buried inside of a massive mesa, and they blow out of there, and they land in Las Vegas, and where this General Gunn surrounds the ship, but nobody can get inside of it because it's so powerful and it has a force field and everything. Then the planet is attacked by the Dax or the Fall, who have come to the planet looking for the ship to kill it. That's how book one ends with the ship taking out the Daka dudes, but it's in a mess. It's all shot up and everything, and it lands on Mars, and that's where book 2 comes in. How's that?
Very good, very good. Would you go through the other books in the series? What are their names?
The other ones are Mons, for Olympus Mons, because that's where they land, and that's where they do all their training. But what's interesting about book 2 is not only the idea that all the places there are true places, except for maybe one, but we don't know, it may be there. But it's also a 2-part story in the fact that back on the planet, back on home world of Earth, the government is after them to get the ship back because they want the ultimate power in the galaxy, right? Our U.S. government.
Right.
And so there's two stories going on there, and they go after their parents because they don't really know where the ship went. They believe it's still on Earth, and they believe that the parents would know where it is and everything, but they don't. They don't know it's on Mars. And so it's actually 2 stories, and then they come together later on. It's quite interesting. Once you finish reading book 2, you will, if you were dropped down on Mars, you'd know how to get around.
Martian geography lesson. Nice.
There's not only Olympus Mons, but we go through Valles Marineris when they're dropped off at Schiaparelli impact crater, and then have to make a 1,000-mile trek across the Martian plains and through the valley just to get back home to the ship. So that's pretty cool. And then book 3 is what I call, so they learn about it, the ship in 2, and they become what they're going to be, their Gamadin by the end of the book. In one of my leaflets, I say they began as surfers, they became Gamadin. And it's hard work. It's nothing that, they take a pill for or take a drink or like spinach or anything like that, and they become these superheroes. They're not superheroes. They're heroes, but through courage and honor and love and sacrifice. Which brings me into another thing I like about the series is the fact that there's no cussing, there's no pornographic, anything like that, because you don't need it.
Right. You
just need a good story. And the teachers and the librarians wouldn't have liked the series as much if I had been that way. I've come in there to the library and talked to them, and they go, "Are there any vampires?" And they go, "Glad to hear it." So yeah, I'll go to I've been to, you asked about places where I go. I've gone to the Texas Library Association and took probably over 50 sets of my books, and I sold them all. Instead of just buying, a lot of people just buy book 1, see how it goes, and then like the astronaut, okay, I want the rest, but the librarians want to have them all, so they buy the whole series. So my books are in as far away as New Zealand and Australia too, and England.
Very nice. Well done. So there are 5 books in the series so far?
5 books. The third book is Distant Suns, and this is where they are Gamadin and they know how to use the ship, sorta, right? They're still in their infancy. They have this powerful ship, and they're still learning about it. They haven't even been everywhere on the ship.
Well, if it's as big as you describe, it's going to take a little while.
Yeah, it's like 1,500 feet across, A 747 could land on it.
I know, and I've worked with a few people who have been stationed aboard aircraft carriers before, and even after 5 years of being on a carrier, they haven't been anywhere on the ship, so I can only imagine how getting around on a ship 6 times that size would be.
Yeah, that's right. And guess what? As you go through the series, you learn more and more about the ship yourself. I'm learning more as I go through. Because, if you really think about it, it's Star Trek is no different with the Enterprise, and ours is Milawanda. It's a character. It doesn't talk like the Enterprise, and I think that, but I don't do those kinds of things. There's also these helpers called robobs, and they're kind of like stickmen, with a triangle shaped hat, and what they do is they help out around the ship and things, and which becomes pretty cool. But they don't talk, but they understand what you want and things, and even before you want it, they're there, kind of things. And and my guys in the way they do things, they'll put a wig on them, for example, because they're Southern California guys, and they like pizza, and In-N-Out hamburgers are their favorites and things like that, right? So they're no different than any other Southern California guy, in their age, 17 years old. And they're not from a planet far, far away, So the things they do, you understand, because they like girls. And Harlow gets kissed by the fifth chapter. He doesn't have to wait to the fifth book like Potter did.
Well, Potter did start younger than Harlow did.
Yeah. Oh, so back to the books, and then book 4 is it's a little departure from the others in the fact that they crash land the ship Milawanda on a 16th century planet, trying to save it. This planet is about to be hit with what they call a gamma ray burst, which is an exploded star, and that sends us these rays through the galaxy, and it's about to hit this planet. And if it does, all life on the planet will just be burned up.
An extinction level event.
Right. By using their force field, they blanket the planet, but in doing so, once the gamma ray burst hits, it sucks the energy out of Milawanda, and so she crash lands on the planet. And it's, like I said, it's a 16th century planet, so there is no In-N-Out burgers, cars, all the things that they're used to, right?
It wouldn't be a sci-fi story without at least one crash landing.
That's right. Well, they have to commandeer a pirate ship and sail it halfway around the planet to find the crystal that's going to put Milawanda back on track again, so they can get out of there. And so, as you can imagine, with the help of the robobs and everything, they take this pirate ship and they retrofit it with some of the more modern things. Like they put some turbo propellers on it. They make the keel America's Cup boat would envy, right?
So they took a ship of the line and turned it into a hot rod, is what you're saying?
That's pretty much it. Because they only have like 40 days to sail around that planet and back again before a second gamma ray burst hits it, and they're toast. And that was so fun because I had to learn about bowsprits and spinnakers and foresails and mezzanines and things like that.
So both you and your characters became sailors.
That's right. It was great fun and stuff. And so that book is called Gaz, Gazz. And the reason it's called Gaz is because that's the name of the planet. The planet is called Gaz. And then they not only have themselves to save, but the pirate ship came with a crew. And these guys had on Gaz, you have tails, right? So they have prehensile tails. Also, they're like humans, but humans don't have tails, but these guys do. And so
I bet those help them get around a bit better.
Yeah. So the crew helps them learn how to sail. So Harlow, the hero, has to he's the captain, and he has to prove himself, and he has to rescue Leucadia again and the things that went on before that. So it gets complicated because he not only has to rescue her, he has to rescue himself, the planet, and other people. Plus his ship, right? Yeah, so that's book 4. And then book 5 is called Core. And Core is the fact that now the ship is broken and they have to repair it. And the only place they can repair it is its original where it came from. So they had to discover where that was, and the name of the planet was, or the planet they're looking for was called Orixie, which means origin. Have to travel 35,000 light years from where they are now to the galactic core to fix her. So that's what, yeah. So that's what that book's about. And then book six will be coming out. That'll be some interesting things.
Something to look forward to be sure.
Yeah, it's called Mamua. Mamua is Swahili for ghost.
Ooh, lots to look forward to be sure, coming up in the future. So, Word of Honor, the first book, has been adapted into an audio play. Would you like to talk about your impressions of helping to get that put together?
I had to write the audio play for it with the help of another lady, and whose name escapes me right now. It's not in front of me, but it's she did a wonderful job. Audio Comics did the production. They're at audiocomics.com. They were fantastic. They used college students on vacation, and they did it all in one weekend. And once the script was ready, these guys, you just can't believe what a good actor can do until you see him. You just kind of take it for granted, but a good actor is incredible. I was at a school one time. The English teacher where I was giving my lecture, talking to the students, told me he was a child actor one time, and I go, "Oh, that's cool." And so he said, "You mind if I read it, a little bit of your book?" And I go, "No, that'd be great." And he read about 2 or 3 paragraphs of the first chapter, all that, and I swear, by the time he got done reading it, I wanted to go out and buy my book. It's that good. And I go, I can't believe I wrote that. And it's so cool. And it is the same way with this audio play that I did, for them. And because I've also done a screenplay, and I haven't sent it out yet. I got a lot of help. As a matter of fact, I did in partnership with a guy named Scott Nakeda. And
oh, I know Scott.
You know Scott?
Yeah, we met a few years ago at a previous Star Trek convention.
Yeah, good guy, very good guy, and his wife Harmony. He helped me a lot, and he's on it with me. Him and I collaborated on it. He taught me that the book follows a certain path, but for a screenplay, I have to change the path a little bit and still have the same flavor, you might say. For example, in the book, the general that will ultimately lead these guys to Mars, you might say, doesn't come in until about halfway through the book. But in a screenplay, because he's one of the lead actors, they got to be sooner. He taught me what to do about that, and we went back and forth, and not in a good way, back and forth. Yeah, because you can say, oh, we can't do that, or we can't. One thing, I don't let my ego get in the way of trying to do good work, and I think that's important. Yeah, because I look at it as a salad bar. And I'll listen to them, and then I'll take what I need to make it work. As long as it keeps its quality. The quality's got to be there. That's why it's taken me longer to do these other books. These last, like book 5 and book 6, are taking me longer because I want to make sure the quality's there, and I always want to make sure that each book is better than the last. People ask me, well, which one was your favorite? And I say, the one I'm working on now is my favorite. They're all my kids, right? They're all my children.
Did you have any similar collaborative issues when working with audio comics on the adaptation?
Yes. Yeah, with that lady, I was saying, oh God, I can't remember. Charlotte, I can't remember her name, because it's been about 2 or 3 years ago. But she was part of the audio comics, and they put it together on when it was all done in Maine. That's how interesting the technology is these days. You can do these things from across the globe, you might say. But again, it's these actors, even though they were great, they put a different light on it because, when I'm writing, I hear the voices, but it's their interpretation too. And I go, oh, that's nice, and things. There was a couple of things I would have changed, but it's like anything, right?
Like the heavy surfer lingo and accents?
Yeah, that's right. Because, if they're back east, they don't understand. The Southern California guys don't talk like that, but that's okay. Well, some might, but my guys, especially Harlow was raised by two Marines. His mother was a Marine DI, and when she said, "Take out the trash," he didn't wait for a Zen moment. He always remembers the time when he was 9 years old when he didn't take out the trash, and she threw him through a window.
Oh, that's some tough love.
He never gave her back talk again. But having said that, and it's with my characters, they don't have drug problems. They don't have parents that don't love them. These parents love them, and they'll do anything for them. But they don't spoil them. Everything they've gotten, they had to work for. And that goes for all my, well, except for the movie star, he has things to learn. The movie star, Simon Bolt, Monday Platter is his bodyguard, and they get caught up in going to Mars too. So when they land on Mars, it's Harlow, Riverstone, and Matt Riverstone, and Wiz, Simon Bolt, and Monday Platter, and all five of them become Gamadin.
What does Gamadin mean?
Gamadin was an ancient police force throughout the galaxy, and they were around 17,000 years ago. All right, because Milawanda is 17,000 years old, and she still works. But when they discover her, of course, there's no Gamadin left, and what happens is it's a resurrection. This becomes a resurrection of the Gamadin. And I got the name Gamadin from an old movie back in the 30s called Gunga Din. And it's an old black and white one, and it starred Cary Grant and Victor McLaughlin and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Sam Jaffe. They were on patrol in India and the Punjab, right? And they get attacked. These three buddies. Well, one of the buddies is going to retire and get married and all that in the beginning of the show, and they talk him into, well, come on this one last time with us, what can it hurt, right?
And that always turns out well.
Imagine all the trouble they get after they're attacked by these Indians, right? This Indian sect group, and so that's where I got the Gamadin. The Gunga Din turned into Gamadin.
Well, that about wraps up all the questions I had. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, or any future projects that you'd like to promote?
Well, no, only that I'm trying to get into to be a movie. Like I said, I've got the screenplay done, and I'm going to submit it, and I will be doing that. I will be working on finishing book 6, and also going to different schools, still continuing that. And I don't charge a thing. I just talk to them about writing because the kids really need that, and they enjoy listening to my story about how, because when I was growing up, I wasn't much of a writer too. They go, I hold up a piece of paper and I go, you see this? This is just one page, and I know all of you just hate it. Writing that one page is tough. Well, it was tough for me too, and I didn't start writing till I was in my mid-20s because I was busy. I was busy being a young guy. I was playing baseball, going on dates, surfing, doing all the things that, traveling too, all the things that young guys like to do. So that's what my book's about, and it's about, it's about the surfers, but it's not about surfing, and it's not corny, but there are a lot of humor in the books, because that's what life is. But in ending, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your program, Ross, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining me, Tom. I feel privileged to be able to speak to you about your book and your series, and I hope to help you promote it going forward.
Thank you very much.
So where can people find more information about Gamadin, your book series, the audio play, and everything else you're involved with?
Well, they can go. The main place is our website at Gamadin, GAMADIN.com. They can find everything there, and also my books are on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. My Facebook page is Gamadin Book Series, and that has pictures of our latest. Although I haven't got Star Trek up yet, I'll be working on that. But on the all the conventions I've gone to, and some of the fun stuff that you wouldn't normally see in a book or anything that have to do with the book and promotion. Yep, it's all there. Again, it's the Gamadin at GAMADIN.com.
All right. Well, thank you once again for joining me, Tom.
You bet.
This has been For the Love of. My name is Ross with Live, Love, Play. Please, if you enjoyed this interview, like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. And remember, live, love, and play every day.
In association with Busy Little Beaver Productions.